We are joined by the beautiful sights and sounds of one Xen Sam, actress, model, supermom, sometimes investigative reporter, and always slave to fashion. How are you, Xen?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So was just talking to set up for this in the last segment that, you have people in Hollywood who've worn blackface and they're not canceled by the cancel culture. And now you have Nick Cannon out there in a time when people are talking about, coming together as one, uniting racial equality. And you got Nick Cannon out there just savaging, Jewish people. What's happening with this, Zen? What's happening?
This is getting out of control. But I mean, look, Nick Cannon referenced literature that he assumed to be factual to uplift his Black community. And instead, it turned out to be hateful propaganda and stereotypical rhetoric that pained our Jewish community. And, Viacom CBS ended a decade-long relationship with Nick after he was joined by this controversial hip-hop figure, Professor Griff, on a recent episode of the Cannon's Class podcast, where basically talk turned to Black people as the true Hebrews and included anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. But on Fox, Nick Cannon is keeping his job as host of the competition series, The Masked Singer. So two very different approaches. One network fired him. One network, kept him alive. They said that they were going to talk to him and that he was extremely apologetic, if you will. I do believe that he was apologetic. And I also do believe that in the middle of this interview with Professor Griff, he got carried away and wanted to ingratiate perhaps a very prominent figure in the rap community. And look, right now, Nick Cannon is keeping his guilt because something terrible happened this morning. He put out a post, John, and this is where social media is truly the devil, because you have Chrissy Teigen being harassed. Now you have Nick Cannon. I'm not defending him at all. I mean, what he said was
well,
disgusting.
It sounds like you are a little bit.
No,
it sounds like a little bit. It sounds like you are.
The post on his Instagram, which was a location tagged as heaven, read, "I heard an entire community and it pained me to my core and I thought it couldn't get any worse. Then I watched my own community turn on me and call me a sellout for apologizing. Good night, enjoy Earth." So social media users were concerned at the location Cannon basically chose as the content of his post, which one of them was urging him to call 911 for a wellness check. Now, none of this ever warrants anybody taking their own life, ever. So that is where, although I was ready to go full force on him this morning, and I really was because of my Jewish, ties, and my husband is Jewish, and I'm raising my daughter, and it hurt me because it was not only wrong, but it was very poorly calculated at a very important time in our world. But none of this will ever warrant for a person to take their own life, ever. So if that's what
is that Nick Cannon calling? Is that Nick Cannon calling to tell you what to say next?
Me? No. I just I want to back off. I just want to back off here right now.
I see that, but you're usually hard charging. You're usually all motivated.
I'm not gonna. Because of that last location, and I don't know if it's him just being emotional.
So you think it may have been a cry for help where he's on the edge of suicide, feeling so guilty about what he's done that you don't want to feel like you contributed further to that. Okay, fair enough. Nick Cannon actually gave Pete Davidson used to work for me. He used to be an intern for my company. He used to drive us around sometimes. I grew up with his dad. And Nick Cannon actually gave Pete Davidson like his first break and took him in the Nick Cannon comedy tour. So, all right, for today, I'll give you a break on that. But I'm not happy with the double standard in Hollywood. And I'm not happy with the double standard when you could wear blackface and not get mocked if you're in Hollywood. If you can be anti-Semitic and not get mocked. But if any of us tried that, we would be canceled to where Nick Cannon's location was last night. We'd be canceled off the planet. All right, what about this? I love me some mob dramas. I hear there's some drama going on in Sopranos land right now. What's happening with the Sopranos?
You know, who would have guessed that Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini, would literally be one of the breakout stars of 2020 television over 2 decades after The Sopranos premiered on HBO. And yet today, 12 years after the final episode aired, Tony is as large and as in charge as ever, in my opinion. Warner Media reported that the viewership on their show's 86 episodes surged, are you ready? 179% on its HBO Now subscription streaming service since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. So not only have the longtime fans returned to the mob drama for some serious comfort viewing, but in my opinion, a growing legion of first-time viewers, including a massive swath of Gen Zers. I know that my teen kids are in that Gen Z category, are literally making their visits back to the Jersey suburbs for the Satriali's pork store in the Bada Bing to literally go see it. There's been an upsurge in this. So the show's resurgence is bolstered by podcasts exploring the series in detail. Like they go and they really go under the hood for every episode, and they explore like the mob and the mob culture, a fan convention, a wave of comprehensive books, articles, and essays sparked by its 20th anniversary celebration last year. So I guess it all means it still all seems very contemporary to these fans who basically, you know, you would feel have been so far removed from The Sopranos. But I think the show is having this renewed moment during the pandemic because certainly people have had more time to go if they've never been before, take the plunge to start watching the series.
All right. Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm very hurt by The Sopranos.
You are?
Yeah, well, it's a mocking look at the Italian culture. It stereotypes us all as criminals and gangsters and murderers.
You're right.
I'm very upset. No, you see, I'm not upset. You know I'm not a snowflake.
No,
everyone knows that every Hollywood has created, you know, their own stereotypes of every different race, color, creed, the way they wanted to create those stereotypes. And everybody knows that the government and the CIA have a liaison office with Hollywood where they get things into shows and movies to create a public perception. So rather than kill it, I'll tell you what, I go on the record right now, I'd rather have the mob run in New York City right now than the mafia that's actually running it. And I mean that. And there's two different things, right?
Right.
The mob of old would have this thing under control, would bring all the people from the different communities together in one place and have a sit down and say, all right, what do you need? What do you got? Stop it already. And there's it may sound crazy, but you know, it sensationalizes all Italians. But I'm not hurt by it. It happens. I'm hurt when the guy who found this darn place where we all love and enjoy, Christopher Columbus, is getting beheaded and taken down all over the place. You know, they're not canceling Billy Crystal for doing blackface 2 times on the Academy Awards. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, I see the depiction, but The Sopranos also made people literally love and adore the Italian culture. It sparked, you know, people sitting down on a Sunday night and drinking wine and sharing meals and watching the episode. So even remember, TV spins things any way it wants to put their own touch of art into things that we either adapt from reality or use as a reference. And The Sopranos really did kick off the era of prestige television. And people are not looking back and finding it to be out of touch with today's sensibility or problematic for one element or another. Nobody's tried to apply the cancel culture to The Sopranos. And in a more perfect world, we would be sitting down in theaters in September to see The Many Saints of Newark, which is The Sopranos prequel film that David Chase has put together. But it's going to be delayed till next March now, March of 2021. And in the meantime, you know, the streaming surge of The Sopranos bodes well that the audience is going to show up for it. And the story, John, is set in a moment in time during Newark's 1967 race riots. So that's not unlike what we've been experiencing with some racial unrest and some racial division. It has a lot of parallels.
Well, maybe while they're over there, they can look around for my car because the cops are telling us that they tracked it possibly to Newark. So if anybody sees a Ford Explorer out there. Hey, Xen, before we go, I don't know if you heard, but I'm trying to go a little more organic. And our friends over at Trio Organic Fruit and Birchwater sent me some samples. And my friends over at Ponzoni Vodka, it's a double organic Friday. All right. I'll see you, darling. Thank you so much.
I'll tag the organics.
Yeah, there you go. All right, quick break. Right back after this.